Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next action figure review. Don't do these too often on my channel, but every so often when I do get something that's notable, I do like to do a review of it. And as you can see here and from the title, this is my review for the SH Figuarts Kakashi Hatake figure. Brief look at the box here, don't see too much point in focusing that much on it. Here we go. Pretty basic packaging, standard, kind of high-end Japanese kind of figure style box. Image on the front, SH Figuarts. It's obviously made by Bandai, which if you're familiar with American toys, very different company in Japan compared to America, just because of like child safety laws around toys and stuff like that. Ages 15 and up. Obviously from Naruto Shippuden line. Nice image on the side. Back just gives you an example of some of the poses you can get out of him. And you can see some of the stuff. Simple style and heroic action. Molding. Option parts, movable, and then it's distributed by Bluefin Distribution for America. That's why there's some English words on the box. And then notable here is just, you can sort of see it here, SH Figuarts. It says, SH Figuarts is a new standard figure series that incorporates the Bandai action figure art under the theme Pursuing Character Expression Through Humanoid Action. That is, you can sort of tell that that is translated from Japanese almost directly. In that, like, it does make sense. The idea they're going for is that the figure is so articulated, it basically has the same articulation as an actual human. That's how articulated it is. It's doing a theme from a show and making that character just as articulated as they are in that show. So yeah, that's all there really is here. Straight away, I'll just say I got my figure from a online toy store called MH Toy Shop. They were selling it for $49.99, and then obviously converted to euro. I'm not really sure what it came to, but the shipping wasn't too bad in terms of it being expensive, and it got here in about 8 days, so their international shipping seems quite good. Yeah, this little yellow piece of paper was just the little backing insert in here. It was just behind it, so I just keep it here. And yeah, that's basically all there really is to say about the packaging and stuff like that. The Naruto line of SH Figuarts so far has 3 figures. This is the 3rd one, and it was just released end of December, start of January. Before that, they released a Shippuden post-time skip Naruto and a post-time skip Sasuke. So this is the 3rd figure. Next up is Minato, followed by either Itachi or Sage Mode Naruto. They're the next kind of figures coming in the line, though we don't have full confirmation. I think the only thing we know for sure is that Minato is next. But yeah, before we get into the figure, I'll just cover what you get. Obviously, this is the figure you get. Normal Kakashi, standard face with the headband down over his eye, and you get hands that can hold his kunai. You get 2 kunai. You can take these kunai out of his hands. Hence why I have one of the hands holding the kunai like you'd hold like a sword, and then one of them with the kind of reverse grip that they often use in the show. So you have those kind of object holding hands. And now I'll quickly go over the additional stuff that you get. So you get obviously separate heads. It said on the back movable parts and stuff like that, and so you do get a separate headpiece. Now this is the other one. You can see that straight away it's a straight headband, so this is going to be for the faces that have the Sharingan eye exposed, and you get 2 faces for it. You get this one here, which you just insert it like that, and this is the way he uses it a lot of the time in the show, in that he just opens his Sharingan eye and closes his other eye. And then the other one face you get is basically the same, just with that closed eye now open. I've watched the whole show, and I've even researched a little bit about this. I'm not massively sure what the difference is meant to be in terms of power. In the sense of, I know he tended to do this very early on, and then at the later points in the show, he did just have both of his eyes open, but it's a little bit like weird that like it's not massively specific. I almost would have done it where like you just have this, both eyes open, one Sharingan eye, and then you also have a separate face with both eyes open, normal eyes, like he is much later on in the series when Naruto restores his lost eye, and then when he loses the Sharingan. But yeah, that's a separate head. I'll go over how you attach the separate head in a moment, but yeah, with this one, obviously you just replace the face, and then because the headband is actually different on that head, that whole head is actually just a separate piece. So there's that. Then the rest of the features you get are just various different types of hands. Let me just get them all out, and then I'll show you them. So yeah, first up you get the left and right hand sign hands. I think what these ones are meant for is basically for doing the shadow clone jutsu kind of pose thing. So that's what that's about. So that's quite nice that they do that, because obviously Kakashi, even though it's not his signature technique, he does use it at times during the show, shadow clone. So it's interesting that you give you these two kind of finger pointing hands, and I assume depending on your pose you can do something different with them. So left and right hands for those pointing finger poses. You get a right hand of just a hand holding the book, and the book is Make Out Tactics, as he often is reading in the show and the manga. Jiraiya's book, of course. So you get that. You get left and right closed fist hands, of course, for just hand-to-hand combat. They're just completely closed. They're just there to be kind of your standard hands. When you get the figure, these are the ones that are on him, just default in the packet. What else do you get? You get left and right kind of splayed out hands for obviously just a more, I suppose, natural pose, like you just have these on naturally for some poses where maybe his hand is touching the ground to support him or something like that, just a nice pose. So you get these options left and right. And then the other ones that you get are, you get this kind of more splayed out open hand, which I think is specifically there so you can do his lightning blade pose, as they have him posed in on the cover here. So you can see that hand is basically open just enough so that it can roughly wrap around his arm. So that's what that's for. The last hand, I'm not entirely sure what it is. It's kind of like halfway between the Shadow Clone Jutsu hand and then the splayed out hand. It's really weird because, as you can see, it's not identical to this in that it's not as closed, and it doesn't seem to be specifically grabbing anything. It's just a hand for, I don't know. It's very odd what this one is for. Maybe in the comments someone can tell me what this specific hand is for, but I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's to grip his hand or something like that, but I'm not sure. But either way, they're all the replaceable hands, and that's all the accessories you get. Obviously, as I said, the other hands are the grippy hands, and then of course you can take out the kunai. The kunai aren't just locked into the hand. You can actually take them out, and then you just have the open hands for other accessories. Can't remember off the top of my head what other special accessories you get with Sasuke and Naruto. I suppose if you really wanted to, you could probably give Kakashi Sasuke's sword to hold with that, but yeah, that's the idea here. And the kunai are actually quite well done. There's a nice kind of reflective paint on them that makes them look like they're metal, and then just the white paint for the wraps. It's quite nicely done, and you know, they're pretty pointy, like almost like this accessory being the way it is probably the exact reason why this can't be just full on released in America, because like this wouldn't get through American toy safety rules. The same with, I suppose, how pointy and hard his hair is and that sort of thing are the reason why you can't get it done. I don't think I actually showed off this bit as well. The other hand that you get in addition to the arm holding lightning blade cutter hand is the actual hand that's generating the lightning nature chakra. So you have that there. Definitely an interesting choice to have it be so round, and it basically looks like a Rasengan that just has a few spikes in it. I maybe would have chosen to design it a little bit differently, in that when he uses it, it kind of tends to almost engulf his hand as well. There's so much energy in it. So, you know, I can sort of see what they were going for here. It's just, making it so circular makes it look like an odd Rasengan, but still cool accessory to give him that attack hand. But yeah, so let's get into the figure, and I suppose I'll go over articulation next. That's the most important thing to do here. Obviously you saw him with a cool dual kunai pose at the start that I had him in there, but in general he is extremely poseable. So let's start with the head. He can look every way you need him to. Turn the head all the way around, look up and down. There is two hinge joints in the neck, one kind of right where the connection is to the head part, and then there's a separate one closer towards the neck. So it means you can kind of have his head kind of go down and up a little bit. The neck kind of here, just where the neck goes into the torso, has some slight movement to it, just tiny bit left and right you can sort of see, and back and forward. It's just a really subtle joint, but it does some nice things. The shoulders are really well done. You have the kind of I suppose a clavicle joint, is it, where you can kind of move the arm out a bit, so you can have much more movement in front of his body and bring his hands closer together. So that's quite good. That's how you kind of get him into the lightning cutter pose. You can't actually do it without that, because you have to bring his hands so close together, and the only way to do that is to have these joints that actually kind of bring the shoulders out a bit. But there you can just see that one of the hands came off. It's not that they're loose, I just had it in an awkward position there. Really simple to just reattach the hands. So that's quite easy. In addition to that, you also have a kind of, basically a ball joint kind of in there, so the shoulder can actually move around. And then that connects to a kind of hinge joint for the outward movement of the hand. And there's also a upward bicep swivel here, so you can actually like have the arm move like that. Double jointed, double hinge jointed elbow, really good to get all the positions you need. Not many action figures have that, and it's great that this has it. And then with the wrist, because of the way the joints tend to work, because obviously the hands are detachable on a kind of ball joint, there's an element of just movement just because of the ball joint, and then the little ball there is actually a hinge, so it can go up and down. And then the way that attaches into the wrist is also a swivel, so you can have basically any pose you need out of the wrist. It's really well done. And that's obviously the same for both arms. Torso area, you have a kind of nice kind of, I suppose, rocker joint. It's basically just a big ball joint that you can move around. Not an incredible amount of movement, but again, for the torso, it's just as much as you need without it looking too bad. And then, of course, the idea, I suppose, with this whole kind of ninja vest section here, the flak jacket thing, is to keep the zipper in a line. And so it not being able to move too much means that that zipper isn't kind of broken, which is quite nice. Which leads then onto the kind of waist section slash what this kind of almost belt-like piece is. This is actually a really well done piece, because obviously the figure has to have some sort of waist movement to turn side to side. And so if they just had that kind of piece here attached to his waist, just locked in place, they could easily just have the position where like you turn him sideways and the zipper is just completely broken. But because this bit is actually like movable, you can actually have the whole section move along with him, and the pouch is obviously attached to the back. So I just like that they keep that accuracy of that zipper. You can always keep that in line, so it looks really nice. And then of course you can move him full 180 degrees, a little bit restricted by the pouch, which doesn't seem to be able to be taken off, like, because I think it's just glued on there, so you can take it off, but you have to glue it back on, I think. And so that's that. So everything you basically need in the torso area. The hip joints are really detailed. There's a lot going on here, as you can see. Bunch of different kind of layered sections in here. But either way, you can get it. You can get the basically 90 degrees out. You can go back a little bit, slightly restricted by the pouch, but depending on what way you move this, you can get more backwards. But again, there are not many poses where you have the leg backwards like that too much. You have outward motion of the leg to there, which is quite good again. Not the full splits, but you know, maybe you want a little bit more, but it's still quite good in terms of the majority of poses you're going to be doing. You have a upper thigh swivel here just to kind of move the leg overall sideways. Good for some kind of sideways facing stances and stuff like that. In the knees, you have a double jointed knee, which, like the elbows, not many action figures, especially in America, have them. It's always great to see that, so that's well done. And then the ankles work in much the same way as the wrists, except there's also the kind of addition of a slight ankle tilt, just for having kind of slightly splayed out kind of stance. You can have his feet still be flat on the ground even at a fairly wide stance. So that's quite good for the balance of the figure. And then the joint there works basically the same way as the wrist. It is a hinge, so depending on what way you have it, you can have even more ankle tilt if you turn that joint sideways, or you can just have the standard foot motion like that. And then because of the way they're kind of attached, you can also have a good range of like sideways motion like that. So that's quite good. And yeah, you see, you sometimes just get it into a position where the joint is kind of facing the wrong way, but you can easily just turn it back around to have it normal again. And then the toes have a joint as well. You can go about that far, which is just nice enough to get those poses where like he's kind of stepping back and just only has his toes on the ground. So super articulated, probably the most articulation of any figure that I actually own. It's really well done. You can basically, just by moving him in any way you want, get the position that you need. So it's really, really well done. But yeah, next I'll just briefly go over changing the hands. I roughly did it there, but yeah, it's just as you saw, the ball joint is quite small, so it is a little delicate. You don't want to be like just ripping it off, but if you just apply the force in the right direction, just pull it straight out, kind of parallel to the joint, it just comes straight off, and you can see how small the joint is, and then it's just a ball joint socket there. And then you just find another right hand and then stick it on. And again, the key when sticking it on is just, again, assert the pressure in parallel to the joint, and you shouldn't have any problem. Get the click, and the other hand is on. And you have him with his lightning blade hand now. And then it works obviously the same with the other side. But we'll try and do the lightning cutter pose, I suppose. And we put the other hand on. There we go. And the pose roughly works like this. You have the hand pointing down. He's in a bit of a crouch. You have his hand coming across his body, kind of holding onto his arm here. And his hand pointing down, face pointing up. Straighten the arm a bit, and you know, it's just a matter of fiddling around with the joints, getting them into the right position, but you could roughly get the position you need. You can sort of see it there. I think the pose is meant to be a little bit wider stanced, but it's very easy to get him into that position. Obviously the only thing wrong here is that he only uses his lightning blade when he has a Sharingan out, because otherwise it's not very accurate. So we can easily fix that by using the other kind of customization option on the figure, which is that you can change the head. Now, let me just take this off, and again, it's just a case of like pulling the head off straight. And this gives me an idea to better explain the way the head joint works. As I said, there's a little bit of neck motion there, and then you can see it can move there, and then also that joint where this bit connects to the head, this can also move. It gives you an idea of how the head actually works. And then the thing with the head is that the hairpiece is one thing, and then this is the other head. So we'll put the hair aside here and then do this. So they're the two different heads. One obviously with the ninja headband down over his Sharingan eye, one with it straight. And then it has the same connections for the hair on both pieces, but obviously the one with the headband straight, you can have different faces. This makes this head a lot easier to put back on than this one, because obviously you have to get the ball joint in there, whereas with this one you have to get it all the way in there and there's not a lot of space. The easiest way I found to get the head back on is to kind of tilt the ball joint out like this, and then just, without the face even on this, put it on like this. It's still probably the most delicate thing with this figure, trying to put the other head on, because the way the jointage works, it tends to like just collapse the joint if you put too much pressure in, and it doesn't quite put the ball joint in. So it's just a very awkward kind of thing to do, especially on camera here. Okay, so there, I eventually got it on. As I said, this is the one very kind of awkward thing about the toy. Changing the head is absolutely the most frustrating thing to do, just because it's quite a small joint. It takes a decent amount of pressure to get it in, and this one especially is kind of a nightmare to get back on. But this one not so bad, because you can really maneuver it into a variety of positions to get it back on. But the thing with this head is that it's very easy to switch the different faces, because you can just like slot them on once the head's in place. So we'll just go with the double eye open one, and it just slots in like that. Whoops, bumped it out of position. But yeah, we put that on, and then the head, again, you just make sure you get it in the right formation, and then click it on into the top. And you have Kakashi with his Sharingan then in place. And just adjust the neck joint, and you are basically done. Yeah, there we go. It's just, I moved the neck joints around a bunch trying to get the head on, but yeah, just put the hairpiece on fully, and yeah, there you go. There you have Kakashi in his thing, and then we'll just fix this pose again. There we go. So yeah, you can pretty easily get him into that pose. You know, obviously you have to put the right hands, the right pieces on, the right head on, but in general, it works out quite nicely. And as it says in the back of the box, you can get these other variety of positions for like classic ninja pose, you know, classic Kakashi laid back pose, reading his book, lying down. That's a pretty nice pose. And then the really wide-legged ninja poses like you can get as well. But yeah, it's just absolutely amazing figure. Super happy with him. He's my favorite character from Naruto, so having such an amazing kind of toy representation of him is really cool to have. To be able to do basically all of the poses you would want with the character is really cool to have. You know, is he missing anything? Perhaps, you know, I would have preferred, as I said before, a face with two normal eyes to match his appearance at the very end of the series, you know, 6th Hokage Kakashi without the Sharingan. That would have been nice, rather than, you know, being so specific with the normal eye open and closed, different face swaps. Maybe it would have been cool to include like just a little model of one of the ninja dog summons that he has, like Pakun or something like that. But in general, you know, it's most of the equipment he uses. Kakashi tends to really only use kunai, you know. Does he use shuriken? Like, sometimes, you know, maybe one or two shuriken would have been nice to include as well. But you basically have all the different hands that you need to do everything. They give him the Make Out Tactics book, which you can take out of this hand, the specific book holding hand. You can actually take it off and just insert it back in. The book doesn't have a joint to close like some books do, but it's just, it does what it needs. You know, there's nothing written on the pages, but there is printing on the forward and back sides of it, so that's quite good. So yeah, that's about all there really is to kind of talk about with the figure. I suppose some of the detail work and paint work, you can see they have the Hidden Leaf Village symbol there on the forehead protector. Really nicely done. They have the Uzumaki symbol there on the shoulders and the back, really nicely molded in. Little details like just how the flak jacket is actually put together with the little things to keep it together. The pouch is quite detailed as well. You know, you have the details of the wraps around his thigh and ankles. Paint for his toes, quite good. it's just, in general, it seems like it's a really high quality action figure. If you really like Kakashi, Naruto, this absolutely seems really good. And in general, I think most people are saying he is the best one of the 3 Naruto SH Figuarts figures released. He has the most articulation, I believe. I think Naruto and Sasuke are both missing certain pieces of articulation, whereas Kakashi absolutely has the best. He's also like taller than those two, obviously, just because he's older than them. But overall, just very, very cool. Just extremely posable. And easy to balance as well. There's some action figures, where they are very posable, but it's actually hard to get them to balance. But with him, you can get everything you need, no matter how awkward the pose is. And it's relatively easy to balance. The joints move quite easily as well. So there's a super wide pose when with some kind of forward and back stuff, and he's still balanced. Just really amazing. Gonna stop it there before I go on and on about the figure. Just really happy with it. So yeah, that's been the review. In the comments, if you have any questions about the figure or anything like that, please leave them below. Other than that, that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.